Have you ever wondered what would happen if Luffy awakened Gear 5 at the beginning of the story? Would he be able to defeat those he lost to? And what would your crew be like? Would there be new members? And most importantly, would he finally be able to save his brother? For this theory to work, let's assume that Luffy awakened his Gear 5 form while he was still a child, training with Ace and Garp. From there, he would begin training with his new skills and leave at the age of 17. To make this video more interesting, we can skip the first 3 story arcs, Shell City, Orange Town, and Syrup Village, as the opponents in these arcs do not represent much of a challenge, and Luffy with Gear 5 would have no problems with them. However, from the Baratai arc onwards, the crew's journey starts to get interesting, as it is there that they encounter Mihawk, who demonstrates how weak they are compared to the great pirates. Now that Luffy has unlocked Gear 5, would he be able to defeat Mihawk anytime soon? First, Luffy's big fight at Baratai was against Don Krieg. Even though Luffy defeated him in the original series, he was seriously injured and lost a lot of blood. However, with his Gear 5 abilities, Luffy would end this fight with just one punch before Mihawk even arrived. But we all knew this was coming, so let's talk about something more interesting: Luffy versus Mihawk. After Zoro's defeat, Luffy would become enraged and transform into Gear 5 to attack Mihawk. At this point, Mihawk would try to explain that he has no intention of hurting Luffy or his crew, but being Luffy, he wouldn't listen and would continue attacking. Considering that Luffy has not yet developed his haki at this point, Mihawk would easily block the attack but would be surprised by Luffy's strength. To stop him, Mihawk would have to cut him, seriously injuring him and giving him a scar similar to Zoro's. Now, you might think that even with Gear 5 unlocked, Luffy wouldn't change anything in this arc since he would still lose to Mihawk. But this is wrong. In the original story, when Luffy finished defeating Don Krieg, Nami was already in Arlong Park. If she witnessed Luffy's power with Gear 5, do you think she would still betray him? Probably not. It is more likely that she asked him to free her village, confident that he could do it. Luffy would then easily defeat Arlong and the fishmen with his giant fists, but this would create a problem. If Luffy solved everything alone, the other crew members, such as Usopp, Zoro, and Sanji, would not have the chance to get stronger, as they would not face worthy opponents. Furthermore, since the Straw Hats would end the fight quickly, they would not cross Marine Captain Nezumi's path, meaning Luffy would not get his first reward yet. However, even though the Logetown arc is short, now that Luffy has Gear 5, some major differences would emerge. For example, Luffy would still be captured by Buggy, but could easily escape using his new abilities without needing Dragon's help. Upon arriving at the Grand Line, we can skip Whiskey Peak and Little Garden, as these arcs would not pose much of a challenge for Luffy and his crew. An interesting fight, however, would be between Luffy and Zoro at Whiskey Peak, as Luffy with Gear 5 would face Zoro, which would be an epic scene. On the trip to Alabasta, Luffy would face his toughest opponent yet, the Shichibukai Crocodile. Even with Gear 5, Luffy would not know how to defeat him, as he has not yet learned the use of haki. Thus, Luffy would still lose to Crocodile in the first fight, but in the rematch, knowing Crocodile's weakness in relation to water, Luffy would win without any major problems. This time, with Gear 5, he would cover his fists with water and defeat Crocodile in devastating fashion. This scenario would create a dilemma. Would Robin still join the Straw Hats? I believe so, as she wouldn't have had anywhere else to go, but perhaps she wouldn't consider the crew as her friends anytime soon. In the Skypiea arc, Luffy with Gear 5 would drastically change the story. The reason this arc was so long is because the Straw Hats were separated, and Luffy was swallowed by a snake. However, with Gear 5, Luffy would have finished his fight with Wiper faster and been prepared to face Enel. Thus, Enel's oppression would be stopped much sooner, and the crew would be released sooner. Moving on to the Water 7 arc, here everything would change. As Luffy would already have Gear 5 and easily defeat the CP9 agents, the crew would rescue Robin before they even reached Enies lobby, eliminating this arc. However, this would have an important consequence. Frankie would not join the crew, as the big fight in Enies lobby would never happen. This meant that the Thousand Sunny would never be built, and the crew would have to continue with another ship. When they reached Thriller Bark, Luffy's strength would make everything much more difficult. However, after defeating Moria with ease, the real challenge would come with the arrival of Kuma. Kuma would test Luffy's strength, but would likely spare his life, just as he did in the original. Finally, coming to the Marineford arc, things would be very different. With Gear 5, Luffy would be able to save Ace without any major problems. As Luffy would be much stronger and without major injuries, Ace would not need to sacrifice his life to protect him. They would escape together, and Whitebeard would probably still die, but Ace would survive. After the war, Ace and Luffy would train together for 2 years with Rayleigh. When they reunited with the crew, they would be ready to face the challenges of the new world. and Ace would become a new member of the Straw Hats. Now that Luffy has mastered hockey, he would be ready to face the Emperors of the Sea. This would completely change the following arcs, such as Dressrosa, Whole Cake Island, and Wano, but these are stories for another video. And you liked this theory? Do you want more videos like this? Go below, leave a like and comment a lot, it helps me a lot. Until next time.